So what is Pinoy baiting? Is it a problem? Am I a Pinoy baiter? Usap tayo. So lots of creators have made videos about this thing called Pinoy baiting over the years, and I've even talked about it a few times in some interviews that I've done, but I thought I'd make a dedicated video to share my opinions on the topic in a more in-depth way. Being someone from Canada who makes a living making content about the Philippines, I thought my opinion might be interesting to some people. I've even received some questions about this topic from my viewers. So to start with, what is Pinoy baiting? According to Wikipedia, Pinoy baiters are defined as giving superficial and allegedly insincere praises and similar reactions that give recognition to the Philippines and its people. Basically, foreign creators who exploit the Philippines for easy views and quick cash. It's no secret that Filipinos are very receptive to foreigners who make videos about the Philippines. I don't think this idea is completely unique to the Philippines either, as most people enjoy hearing the foreign perspective on their countries, but it's definitely heightened among Filipino audiences. I think this comes from the Filipino perspective on foreigners in general. Anyone who has visited the Philippines from abroad will understand this. Walking the streets of the Philippines as a foreigner makes you feel like you're almost a celebrity or something like that. You get a lot of attention from people, especially if you're in smaller towns, and even more so if you speak the language. Filipinos are known as being welcoming people, and they share their curiosity freely with people that they meet. They genuinely want to talk to you, know where you're from, and ask about your experiences in their country. So when foreign content creators make videos about these topics, they're typically very well received by Filipinos. I think there's a temptation for creators to specifically cater to this audience in order to get views. But is that a bad thing? I mean, isn't that what every content creator does to a certain degree? Someone might recognize that playing a particular video game draws more attention online, so they upload videos about it more often in an attempt to build an audience. Or people might see that following a certain trend on TikTok gets lots of views, so they repeat it over and over. That is kind of the content model that many people follow. I think the inherent negative connotation with Pinoy baiting specifically is that it's disingenuous. In order to make content for Filipino people, you don't necessarily have to care about the culture or the country. And I think that's where it starts to become something exploitative. The difficulty with this though, and the reason that the term Pinoy baiting gets thrown around so much, is that it can be hard, if not impossible, to know how genuine someone really is. Some people are super good actors, and many times the people that we watch online are completely different in person. I think the more time that somebody spends with a culture, the more sure you can be that they truly care about it. In other words, the amount that they have dedicated to understanding the people, language, and way of life. As many of you know, my initial exposure to Filipino culture was very language forward, in that I was highly motivated to learn Tagalog right from the beginning. Because of that, this might seem like a biased take, but I really do believe that if you've invested the required time to speak a Filipino language to a high degree of proficiency, it's significantly less likely that your interest in the culture is superficial or monetarily motivated. Even if you start out learning Tagalog with the sole purpose of exploitation, that just won't be a strong enough reason to continue, especially when you encounter hurdles throughout the learning process. Another reason that I believe this is true is that in order to learn another language, you need to spend hundreds of hours speaking with locals. Whether you want to or not, that alone will draw you closer to the people and create a more authentic connection. Now, of course, I'm not saying that anyone who makes content about the Philippines and doesn't speak Tagalog is a Pinoy baiter. That wouldn't be accurate or fair. In fact, I've talked to many people on my channel who have very deep connections to the Philippines and don't speak a Filipino language fluently. I'm just saying that knowing a language is a very good indicator of personal investment. There are other indicators as well, I'm sure. Language is just something that I'm very familiar with. Also, I'd like to mention here that I'm sure there are also people who notice that a particular creator is pandering to the Filipino community, and they still support them because at the end of the day, they're promoting the Philippines. And that's also a valid opinion. Another criticism of alleged Pinoy baiters is only focusing on positive things in the Philippines and ignoring any issues that may be happening there. It does seem like so much of the content online about the Philippines is positive. So does that mean that the Philippines is a utopia without without any issues or concerns? Of course not. Any country, the Philippines included, has pros and cons, and there are many things that could be improved. Pinoy baiters or not, I do think that foreign content creators could sometimes conduct themselves in a more productive way. One valid criticism that I've heard is that they push the idea of affordability without recognizing the privilege that they have. They travel to the Philippines with dollars or euros in their pockets, and then they rant and rave about how cheap everything is. Obviously, for them, living in a developing country is cheaper, but the apartments that they rent, the resorts that they stay at, the food that they eat is all outside of the budget of the vast majority of the Filipino population. Many digital nomads are also drawn to the Philippines, and they talk about the work-life balance that they enjoy, even though for many of them that balance comes from earning a currency that goes much farther than the Philippine peso, a privilege that again many Filipinos don't have access to. Now, I'm definitely not saying that we shouldn't go to the Philippines and spend our money there. Tourism is a huge resource for the Philippines, and I think that's great. I mean, I earn dollars and I spent 3 weeks in the Philippines living in a way that would be considered luxurious. I just think it's important to recognize that money allows us to insulate ourselves from the real problems of wealth inequality that many Filipinos deal with every single day. So when we make videos about life in the Philippines, let's be honest, many of the experiences we have there are just not accessible to the average person. Without doing that, it can seem like we're minimizing the problems of local people. And when it comes to issues like government corruption, poverty, and other social issues, what role do content creators play in addressing that? That's a complicated question. Many times, local people have the right to speak more freely about their country than outsiders. I think that's a common experience around the world. You know, you can criticize your own country, but when someone else does it, you get defensive. So I think us foreigners are sometimes scared to come across as judgmental about a country that isn't our own. Like I mentioned earlier, every country has its pros and cons, the positives and the negatives. And to be clear, when people say that the Philippines is a beautiful country and that the people are friendly, welcoming, and generous, those things are true without a doubt. So for me, especially as a Canadian, when I see so many positives in one country, it almost feels disingenuous to only talk about the negatives. I mean, my own country isn't perfect either, so who am I to judge? And with everything that the Philippines has going for it, why would I only focus on the negatives? I think that when you create a brand around disliking something, it also gets toxic really quickly. I personally don't think that constantly looking for something to be upset about is a healthy way to live, especially in a country like the Philippines that boasts tons of amazing things. This is where the conversation becomes more nuanced, though, because some issues are worth talking about. Can the influence that I and so many other creators have help to bring awareness to systemic problems in the Philippines and maybe even improve those issues? Can we use our social media platforms as tools for positive change? Is that even our role? Is that what viewers want from me and my content specifically? Those are tough questions, and I can't pretend to have all the answers. This year, I've recorded a ton of interviews with other foreigners about their experiences with Filipino culture. Thank you to everyone who has supported these interviews on my channel, by the way. It really means a lot to me. Out of the people that I talk to, very few have anything negative to say about the Philippines at all. But I do like to believe that I tackle topics that sometimes get overlooked by other creators, such as wealth inequality and white privilege. Do you think that Filipinos give foreigners preferential treatment?
Oh, without question. They even admit they do.
I don't go into those issues assuming that I know it all, but I am fortunate to talk to many people who have a lot more experience in the Philippines than I do, and I'm very grateful for their perspectives. In that way, I try my best to find the line between recognizing that the Philippines is a special country filled with amazing people, while also providing realistic perspectives on social issues in order to challenge the status quo. That line for me is recognizing recognizing the difficulties of many Filipino people without overly criticizing. I have no rules for what my guests can or can't say during our interviews, and if they'd like to go into political issues, they are free to do that, as long as they're not hateful, of course. Personally, I'm not a political commentator. For one thing, as a Canadian, I'm not super informed about Filipino politics, so for me to get into that without doing a bunch of research first wouldn't be helpful to anyone and could even do more harm than good. And additionally, at least for now, I'm not really interested in making political content. I love talking about the Philippines, meeting new people, and speaking Tagalog. There are other creators who can handle political issues. I don't think that every creator needs to touch on the same issues. So as a viewer of my content, you may notice I'm foreign. I make videos exclusively about the Philippines. I monetize that content and make money, and I speak mostly positively about the Philippines and its people. So am I a Pinoy baiter? Let's go back to the original definition. Pinoy baiters are defined as giving superficial and allegedly insincere praises and similar reactions that give recognition to the Philippines and its people. I guess it comes down to whether you think my praises for the Philippines are superficial or insincere. As someone with over a decade of exposure to Filipino culture, obviously I wouldn't say that my opinions are superficial. I feel that I have an in-depth understanding of the culture through my experiences with the people. I also learned to speak Tagalog over 11 years ago, but I've only made money from it in the last 3 years. So my motivation to learn the language was exclusively to connect with Filipinos. I had no intention of making content. So personally, I would say that I'm in the clear. But ultimately, it's up to the viewer to decide. So to wrap this video up, I'll try to break down my opinions on the issue of Pinoy baiting. In order to constitute exploitative Pinoy baiting, I think there needs to be an element of superficiality or disingenuous intentions. While not a guarantee, speaking a Filipino language is a good indicator that someone is truly invested in the culture. I don't think that foreign creators should post exclusively negative or positive content about the Philippines. When talking about positive experiences in the Philippines, it's important to recognize how economic class can drastically change your experience. There are social issues that need more awareness, but should be handled with care, especially from non-Filipino creators. I like to have open dialogue with the guests of my videos, and I'm always open to talk about important issues when they come up. I'm not a political commentator, nor am I informed about Filipino politics. Not every creator has the same interests or roles in content creation. So what do you guys think? Especially if you're Filipino, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Pinoy baiting. Did I get it right? Was there something that I missed? Am I a Pinoy baiter? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time. Ingat kayo.